Well, it looks like January could not end without another banger. Sony has just announced that they are acquiring Bungie, the developers of the Destiny franchise, for $3.6 billion. Okay, so obviously people felt that Sony would make an acquisition to answer Microsoft's giant acquisition of Activision. Um, Look, there's gonna be people who are gonna be worried about consolidation in the video game industry, which is fair, and I believe there are people out there who will make that argument on good faith and will be balanced in their reporting. However, the mainstream gaming journalist hacks like Jason Schreier will not, because of course, when Xbox announced their deal, he was like, "Well, this is something the DOJ will look into." PlayStation announces their deals, like, "Yay, go Sony!" Right? So you see people's biases in this. Um, but that's that. So I'm not gonna focus on uh industry consolidation too much, but one of the things that I have found interesting, it was when Microsoft acquired um Activision, was that Phil Spencer sees Apple, Google, and Amazon as bigger competitors than Sony. I think that's something people are not paying enough attention to. We know that Apple's going to make their own console. Amazon is already making their own video games, and if they wanted to make a console, if they wanted to make anything, they of course have the means. They're the largest corporation on earth, and they are known for just cannibalizing markets and being willing to lose money to put competitors large and small out of business completely. And we know Google tried with Stadia, which was god awful, and I'm glad that they failed, because you're not going to charge someone for a service and then say, well, on top of that, you got to pay for games, and then the service is complete shit. Facebook is getting into gaming with VR gaming. So there is more competition as opposed to the big three, where it was always Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, and primarily Xbox and Sony, competing in console sales and developing exclusives for the consoles. I think there's a paradigm shift in what these companies see as competition and what their end goals are. Now, as opposed to Sony buying Bungie, um, I think there was an interview with Jim Ryan on Game Industry Biz, and I'm gonna read you a quote that I think is very relevant by Jim Ryan. "I've been on record talking about increasing the size of the PlayStation community." Before I continue, that would be nice if you would get people PS5s instead of scalpers, you big ape. "Increasing the size of the PlayStation community and expanding beyond our historic console heartland," when he's also been on record saying people don't want to play old games, people don't want live service games, people don't want streaming, people don't want this. So take it with a grain of salt. This can take many forms, and definitely one of the main ones is the ability for wonderful games that we've been making over the past 25 years to be enjoyed in different places and played in different ways. Yes, because PlayStation exclusives have been so readily available across to other platforms. We are starting to go multi platform. You've seen that. No, I have not seen that. Just because you release Horizon, God of War, and Days Gone on PC, you're calling that, like, dude. I'll get into that later, but no, I wouldn't say you're multi-platform. I would say you're just finally buckling under the pressure of the developer saying, "We would make more money, you ignoramus, if we sold on PC." We have seen an aggressive roadmap with live services and opportunity to work with and particularly learn from the brilliant, talented people from Bungie that is going to considerably accelerate the journey we find ourselves on. And I think the key word here is aggressive roadmap with live services. Sony's exclusives are great single player games. I won't deny that they're each a banger. But single player games have a limited sales model, right? They make the game. 9 times out of 10, it's a complete game. Maybe they have some extra DLC for later on, but it's a complete game. There's not much more you can give to the game content wise to keep people playing it. And microtransactions in a single player game don't work. And I think that's where this is coming from. They want microtransactions. Okay? Live service games drive microtransactions. Okay? And they want them. If you remember the epic lawsuit against Apple where they released Sony's multi-platform paywall, where if you buy a microtransaction, let's say you buy it on PC, but because the game is also on Sony's platform, Sony charges the developer a percentage because their argument is, well, they also play on PlayStation, so we're entitled to it. This is about that. Because Destiny 2 has microtransactions. I'm not here to really crap on them too much because they're not very necessary. They do a good job of kind of balancing it from, pay to win and all that stuff. But they have their battle passes every season, right? They want a cut of that. They want a direct cut of that. And I think that's where this acquisition comes from. You know, they don't care if the next Destiny is on PC, if it's on Xbox, if it's on your phone. They want microtransactions, and they're gonna go to Xbox and say, "Well, we own the studio, so we deserve a larger percentage of the microtransaction that the Destiny game gets on your platform." Okay, because Microsoft can have more leverage in negotiations now that they own Call of Duty, and any Call of Duty that is not promised to Sony contractually is up in the air. And so Phil Spencer go to Jim Ryan and say, "Yeah, dude, like these microtransactions, I don't mind selling my stuff on your platform, but you can't be taking a large cut of my microtransactions from my games." Now Jim Ryan has to salvo. Well, you want this game on your platform, right? Well, we gotta. So in a way, they've both taken a big multi-platform franchise and they've put it in their deck, and they're coming to it with the table. And I think is more about the microtransactions than it is about anything else. And it is about cross-platform play or anything, right? Sony has, which brings me to my next point: cross-platform. Multiplayer games from here on out need to be cross-platform. You have to be able to play with everyone, and I know console players don't like to play with PC players because PC players have access to cheats, and I get that. I'm not here to say that that's wrong, but when you have, you know, multiplayer games need large player bases, and eventually majority on no matter what platform you want, majority of people tend to move on. So if 70% of the players from Destiny who own it on PlayStation move on to other games, the same for Xbox, the same for PC, but the fact that 30% on those platforms can all play together, then they still have a very active and wide game base of players to play the game with, and the game retains more life. It still goes, it still makes money for these people because it's all about making money for the suits at the top, right? But from the player standpoint, there's still more players playing it, and it's still fun, and it can still hold your attention. So again, I think this is mostly to have something in your hand to play. When Phil Spencer says, "Well, this Call of Duty hasn't been promised to your platform. Let's discuss you taking the cut of microtransactions. Let's discuss my cut of giving you stuff from people buying stuff on Destiny." Right? To me, this is at the core of this. This is about negotiating microtransactions more than it is about selling plastic boxes, which for Sony they still are heavily invested in, where Microsoft doesn't really have to, because Microsoft again Windows is what you need to play 99% of PC games, and they have the monopoly on Windows. So you really can't compete when you look at Microsoft as an entity, and you're not just narrowed in on the Xbox division. Moving on, to another quote. This is from the guy, uh, again from Jim Ryan. We should absolutely, when talking about more acquisition, we should absolutely expect more. He concludes, we are by no means done with PlayStation. We have a long way to go. I will personally be spending a lot of my time with Pete and the team at Bungie to make sure, they're going to make more acquisitions. And I assume Xbox will. However, again, I don't want to focus this on too much. Sony buying Bungie is a good thing because Bungie, they have good developers, they have good concepts. They don't have good work culture because they've also been found to be in the cesspool of game developers with horrid, horrid work culture. And number one, it's as if this cleans up that bad upper management and changes and makes work a good, safe place for everyone to thrive and try to succeed. I'm all for that because if you're going to make me spend 40 hours a week at minimum at a job, it should be harassment free, it should be violence free, it should be racism free, and I shouldn't have to be dealing with bullshit because at the end of the day, we're all just at our jobs for a fucking paycheck, right? But if you're gonna make me earn that paycheck through 40, you better, make sure that I don't want to deal with bullshit. I just want to come in, work, and go home, right? That's majority people. Just want to come and do their work and go home. And if you enjoy your work, that's great. If you're just doing it for the paycheck, that's fine too. But we all deserve to not have a crazy workplace. Um, but Bungie at its core, when you look at Destiny at its core, it's a very good game. It has good gameplay mechanics. It has a good foundation. They've just never been able to make it thrive the way it should. Destiny 1 was held back by Activision. Activision never gave them the full support. Activision drove them to make microtransactions crazy, DLC crazy, and Destiny originally wasn't perceived well. Then when it came to its expansions, its content expansions with I think it was the Taken King or something like that, it started to get more popular. That's when I got into it. And I was like, okay, Destiny is something good. Destiny 2 also kind of fell into the same thing. Yes, it came with a single player campaign, but there was a long period after the single player campaign where you didn't have good content updates, good story updates, good story expansions that didn't really move the needle, and you really just the end game wasn't that much to do. It was a looter shooter at the end of the day. um but now they've picked it up with the story content now. However, for someone like me, where my attention doesn't stay in the game too long, they've moved past my attention. I'm not getting back into Destiny no matter what people say about its expansions. It's over for me. I played it. It stopped being fresh. And now, because Destiny has become so hard for players to return to, or for new players, I'm just skipping the rest of Destiny 2. But if you give Bungie autonomy, if you give them the finances and the resources they need, and you clean up the bad environment, I think Destiny 3, regardless exclusive or not, can be a smash hit. Smash it with regular updates, regular content, regular things to keep you invested, to become that game that becomes your main grind. I think PlayStation can help Bungie achieve that. They are a good studio at the core of it. They've been marred by issues. They've been sort of dealt bad hands through Activision. They've been overseen by bad people and bad actors. But if you clean it up, if you give them what they need, they can probably make a really good game. A really good game that you're gonna want to main grind on. We all want games that are our main grinds, that are, I come home from work and I know I'm putting this game in, and I know I'm spending at least an hour in it, and I know I want to make friends in it because this game has my attention, and I just want to make it better by playing with other good people and stuff like that. That was like Call of Duty for me. It's Call of Duty for a lot of players. It's the one game that even if you have limited time or you have all the time in the world, you want to play. Destiny can be that if they are given the resources. I truly believe, because I think at the core they have an interesting game with interesting lore. They can make good story content. They could make good multiplayer content, MMO content, PvE, PvP content, you name it, they can make it, but they do need some additional finances and resources to keep those coming at a regular basis, so we're not sitting here going months on past between updates, and then you're like, the only thing with to me for Destiny is it has to become more accessible, because it is very hard. I tried recently because to get into Destiny, re-downloaded it on my PS4, and I'm just at a loss. I don't know where to begin. Um, the story content feels a little too overwhelming because I haven't leveled up my player and I don't know what's going on and what's the level. So you got to be a little more um, better for people who return to the game or people who want to start the game new. But that's a minor issue, and that's more on just the game itself. But I think if you look at this individually, this is good for Bungie. Again, for the wider video game industry, there seems like there's a consolidation effort. I don't know what that is. Again, Phil Spencer said that the bigger threats are Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook coming into their area and flipping the gaming paradigm, and those companies have more than enough resources to put Sony out of business and Nintendo out of business. Not so much Microsoft, because remember, Microsoft has all its tech aspects, right? They basically have every computer that's non-Apple with Windows. They have loads of office and business software and capabilities that they provide that are going, they're like Amazon with Amazon Web Services, where Amazon Web Services provides so much for the greater Amazon that the greater Amazon, the retail space of Amazon, can cannibalize so much because web services just make so much money, fist over fist of money. And the same thing with Xbox. Microsoft's traditional tech makes hand over fist piles of money that Xbox can cannibalize itself, like Game Pass is cannibalizing itself, because Microsoft has hundreds of billions of liquid cash. It's $1 trillion company. So, but if you want gaming to be what it has been all these decades of a few consoles and PC and great games in between, and you can pick and choose your preference, and all these companies are choosing to be pro consumer and give you the best services possible and the best deals possible, then yeah, you do worry that because Amazon can undercut everyone. They have that much money. They're that big. They can undercut everyone. They make a system. They could literally buy the industry and just make everything exclusive to their system. And you have to buy it, and you'll get deals with Prime. So I think that's also a large factor in these acquisitions. We're gonna see how this plays out. No, I don't think the regulators will stop this deal. Um, I don't believe Bungie's a U.S. studio, but I'm probably more than likely 90% wrong. Um, and I just don't think they're gonna focus on Microsoft. But I would say if you do look at Microsoft, then you do have to look at Sony, because the one thing I just don't want is what we've been having this last generation, where Sony bribes developers for exclusive games and locks them out of other platforms for several years, so that the game never comes to the player on Xbox. It never comes to the player on PC, because by the time that game hits that platform, you've already moved on to other things. Your attention is not going to stay on a game that you just, because the marketing hype for it dies after release, right? Like Final Fantasy VII Remake hits PC. I don't even know where to buy it, but the hype is over. I wouldn't know it if it wasn't for the issues that the PC port have, and then it comes to PC and It's horrible, right? But that's because Sony bribed Square Enix to do it that way. And that to me is more anti consumer, anti industry, anti competition than anything. But I guess the fault of that lies in the CEOs of these companies that take the bribes instead of just trusting that your product will sell across all platforms widely successfully. But I digress. We will see what Sony does from here on out, who else they acquire. There's rumors Xbox is looking to acquire a Japanese studio. Acquire Square Enix and fuck over the first Final Fantasy. We'll see. But if we end console exclusivity, I think we are heading in the right direction. Um, because I believe we should all have access to great games. Don't keep someone from giving you their money because they couldn't. I can't get my hands on a PS5, or else I would have Returnal. I would have Horizon Forbidden West, but I don't, and I'm not gonna buy it, and I don't care. And so much as Sony has been anti-consumer ending the last generation, I'm hoping that they're lighting a fire and there has to be more pro-consumer and realize that this is just good business to be fair to the consumers. Maybe they'll institute a refund policy for their digital store. Although I think they will go to the grave kicking and screaming before they do that. But we'll see. It's interesting. We'll see. But if people are out there saying, "Well, Xbox can't have my Activision, but Sony can't have Bungie," they're just pony fanboys. And again, there's tremendous positives for both. There is the worry about market consolidation, but these guys are still not going to be as big as Tencent. And then there's another group that owns all the AA studios, like Valation, like THQ and the makers of Borderland. They not Take Two, but it's something else. They own all the lesser AA sort of minor AAA studios, and that would be even worse for gaming if one group encapsulated all publishers because they can really dilute the quality of games and do what they want. So we'll have to see. It's interesting. If there is someone out there who wants to buy, if there's a studio I think that should be bought, it should be Konami because Konami has fallen off a cliff. They haven't made a decent game in years. Their treatment of Hideo Kojima, the guy who basically made that company with his Metal Gear Solid franchise, they basically threw him out the door. But it looks like he's doing well, and giving people like that, buying up studios like that, or giving studios like that a contract to exclusively make something for you while they're starting out and they're not, and every game is make or break for them. I'm okay with that. It's mostly the large established guys. I'm like, don't hide Final Fantasy from me because I enjoy all the Final Fantasies, and they've always been multi-platform, and I've played them across Xbox, Xbox 360, PlayStation, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PC, you name it. Don't lock it off because they tend to always be good quality games worth investing the money in. But we'll see. It's interesting. Times are changing. I also think this also plays a part in PlayStation Spartacus. Having games like that. You could probably make Destiny multi-platform, but then say, but here's a little advantage if you own it. If you subscribe to PlayStation Spartacus, you get exclusive content, you get exclusive customization, exclusive weapons, whatever. That's another thing. Oh, excuse me. That I think people are missing here. That they want something to incentivize people to buy Spartacus, whatever Spartacus ends up being revealed to be. I think it's a Game Pass type of thing, and we'll see how good it is. And You know, if I can own two consoles and pay $15 a month to get every game on them, day and date, I don't know how that's a bad deal. Because let's face it, $70 a game, I'm never with it. I've been buying my games. If I don't get it through Game Pass, I buy them on sale. I buy games on sale. I really will wait for a game to be on sale because I just can't justify $70. I paid full price for Battlefield 2042, and that was the last straw. I'm not dealing with it no more. But we'll see. Anyways, I've rambled on long enough. Um, hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the dislike if you didn't. Let me know what your thoughts on this. Again, I don't have a problem with Microsoft buying Activision, and I don't have a problem with Sony buying Bungie. Um, I think they have other things in mind other than exclusivity. I think it's microtransactions, first of all, because that's a lot of money, and they don't have any exclusives that push that business model. Live service. I think it's also for Spartacus, and I think it's also because Sony may also realize that Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Google are a threat to them because those tech companies are so large in other areas that they can cannibalize their video games division and operate at a loss where Sony really cannot. They don't make enough money in selling TVs or laptops or making movies or anything that they really need the video game division to stand on its own merits and be successful. So, um, we'll see. It's definitely interesting, and 2022 is shaping up to be an interesting year. So again, I'm done rambling. Finally, and thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to. Hit the dislike if you want to. Tell me I went on too long if you want to. I appreciate the views, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.